Hey guys, it's Marlene of Life with Marlene. How are you guys doing? I am your channel for vlogs, motivation, and travel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new to Life with Marlene, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you over here as a part of Life with Marlene Fellow Gems. So thank you so much. Appreciate each and every one of you. Happy Friday, everybody. How's everybody doing? I thought I'd come in, do a little bit of a topic, hang out with you guys for a bit. Happy Friday. How's everybody doing? Let me see who is in the chat. I don't know. It seems like I'm buffering. It is buffering. Hey, Huber the cat. Welcome. How are you doing? Yeah, I thought I'd come in for a little bit and talk about this topic, talk about some family secrets. Now we all know that every single family, they keep secrets. And I'm talking about those secrets that hold a lot of pain, anger, trauma, and resentment. And I think every family has them. And maybe if you don't know about them, maybe that's another secret that you need to know. But it was when I was very young that I learned um, that you just don't talk about certain things like you keep it hush, you keep that, to yourself. Don't tell anybody, personal and private business. And for me, I know that was the reason why I had a lot of issues growing up. I had a lot of issues because nobody ever wanted to talk about the things that happened in the past, all those traumatic and painful things that really were the source of so much pain and aggravation. Like some of them, I'm looking at some examples that I have here from my from Google, and some of them could be someone incarcerated that you didn't know. It could be that that uncle that you think is your uncle really could be your father. It could be your sister or your aunt is really your mother. It could be that somebody has done some very shifty things with certain money issues and problems. And holding those secrets is one of the reasons why I can say for me and my family, when something happens, maybe with your parents, then when you grow up, you become detached from your first cousins, and that's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. It's a very painful thing, but yes. Hi Eunice, how are you doing? Welcome. Good to see you. I don't know. It looks like I'm buffering. I don't know what it is, but how are you doing, Eunice? Welcome in. Good to see you. Hi, Realist One. How are you doing? Happy Friday. Good to see you. So, yeah, we're talking about family secrets can ruin lives, right? And it really can. I don't know if you have some things that has been a secret, a big secret in your family. I know that I definitely grew up with lots of secrets, lots and lots of secrets. Certain people that you thought was your aunt and your uncle, not me, but my cousins, that I thought that was my the whatever, my cousins thought that that was their aunt, but in actuality it was really their mother. Because let me say something, if you guys don't know, I don't know everybody's age, but back in the day, how it used to be, if a woman wasn't married, then the woman got sent away. And the child, when she finally would have the child, the aunt or grandparents or other people would keep the child, and then it was like you got stripped of your life. Really, you had to go back to pretending like you never had a child, and then your aunt or grandma or another person who is older and married raised your child. And that happens a lot within my family. That was one of the family secrets that brought a lot of pain, because I had cousins who, you know, the cousins who thought that their aunt, yeah, they thought it was their aunt, but in actuality it was their mom, or a sister was actually their mom. But that's how they used to do it back in the day. You had to be married in order to have a child. But of course times have changed, but that's how it was back in the day. And it's just one but I know for sure that some families don't want to talk about that. They don't want to talk about it. They want to hide that and push that into the back of the closet. Eunice says, I am doing awesome. I hope all is well with you. Yes, Eunice, all is well with me. Thank you so much. Hey, Miss Tracy, how are you doing? Welcome. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Happy Friday to you. If you guys could hit the like, I'd really appreciate it. Miss Tracy says, I'm a living witness, raising family kids. Yes. Yeah, that's unfortunately, that's the way it went. That's how it went a really long time ago. And it could be happening in some places, maybe some places like rural towns where everybody knows everybody's business. So that was a big family secret that came out. I remember when I was like maybe around 8, 9 years old that I found out. My cousins found out that their aunt, they thought it was their auntie, but in actuality, it was really their mother, because back then you couldn't have a child if you weren't married. And so they found out their aunt was really their mom. And some of them never were the same again, and messed them up. Like they found out like after they were already adults, when they finally got their birth certificate, that, it was like, yeah, it was like really strange. Some of those secrets can really mess you up. And I think some of those secrets sometimes can cause people to have certain vices, like substances, taking, drinking, or addictions and things like that, to cover up, their whole life. Really, to me, it seems like their whole life was a lie. And that's sad. That's sad that people just can't be honest. I understand like when they were very small, but what about when they get to be a teenager, to tell them the truth? But their whole life goes by, and then next thing you're 20, 25 years old, and you find out everything that you knew, the person that you call your mom, your aunt, is actually your mom. That I feel like that was wild. And another one of these family secrets that I found out was the reason why certain people left the country, and they are living in this country, and you think that this person is what is it called, a citizen, and actually they came on vacation and they never went back. I know a lot of people, what do they call those? They left their country and they never came back again. I can't remember what they are called, but yeah, one of those things. So yeah, all of that. So I don't like that. I feel like that's very sad, because if you grow up in this country like how we do in the United States and maybe other more affluent countries, you can't really understand what it's like to not have food to eat, not have a place to stay, not have certain opportunities. Some people leave their country, their family behind, and they come to this country all alone. I know that's what my mom and my dad did. They left behind their parents, their siblings, everybody. It was just my mom and dad. They went to New York back in, I don't even know what year. I think it was like 1960 something, and a whole new life. And it was sad. I can say another one of the family secrets, because I feel like telling another family secret. So, another family secret is I didn't find out until I was 19 years old. When I was 19, I found out that my father actually had another child. So I found out that when I was growing, I found out I had another brother. So that was a shocking secret, because you feel like everybody you know, and then all this time you're like, I have a brother out there. And that hurt me a lot, because I know that he missed out on a lot of memories with us, and that caused like some of my other siblings to have a lot of resentment against my dad and my mother. And so, those sort of family secrets is one of those things that I never have understood, because eventually it's going to come out. And I feel like it's the best thing to do, to just be honest from the beginning. Like when when they're old enough to understand, maybe 5 or 6 years old, introduce them while they're young. Say, you have another brother out there, you have a sister out there, you have an aunt, you have a cousin. This is actually your mom. I know you thought it was your aunt, but people keep secrets all the time, and I think that it's very dangerous to the family dynamic. Niece, great niece, and nephew. I done raised, you name it, grandkids. Yeah, I know that's right, Miss Tracy. And that used to happen a lot, because um, I think it's based really on where you live. Because where I was, it was like when you have one person in your family that is not, let's say it that way. I don't have to say the words, but they're not all the way together. So maybe the grandparents or the aunts and uncles or cousins that are older take over raising the child, while they go off on their whatever wild stage. Or even sadder, if one of those family members are incarcerated, or if they're another secret that I've heard, that I read online, was that they'll say like your mother or your father is dead, when actuality they never passed away. They actually are either in prison, or they're on the streets, they're homeless or something. So that's another thing that bothers me, when people in your family, I think sometimes they're well meaning to say certain things like, oh, they're not alive when you're young, just so that you won't ask questions. But then when you get to be older, you're like, I have a mom, I have a father, I have a sister, I have a cousin, I have a brother out there. And all along they told you nothing. They told you nothing, that you didn't even know you had a brother or a sister or a cousin. Or you thought, because you were raised by an aunt or an uncle, that your parents were deceased. And then when you get to be older and you start doing a search, you find out that you have a father, but your father is incarcerated. And I think that that's something very scary. Hey, Urban Gardening Chronicles, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Friday. How are you doing? How's the weather in your area? Um, I think that's one of the things that really mess up a lot of people. I know it messed me up for a long time, when I found out when I was 19 years old that I had a brother, a older brother. And that messed me up for a little bit, because I always wish, how like you always feel that there's somebody missing in your life. I always had felt that way when I was little. I always felt like I had a sister or a brother out there, or a cousin. Yeah, that's how I always felt. But my confirmations came true when finally my brother at that time couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to come and visit my dad, and that's how I found out that I had a half brother out there. So that was big news to me. And then it kind of like split the family, because there are some, because they think because they don't have the same mom and dad, that that's not real. That's not my true brother. That's a half brother. And there's some that resented it, and they didn't want nothing to do with him because he was a child that was not from my mom. So they didn't want nothing. So I had some siblings that didn't want nothing to do with that drama. And then I had the other siblings who were excited, like I was, that I had a brother. But I just feel like it's important, you know, as parents, to be honest with your children. You don't have to tell them when they're like babies and stuff, but around 3, 4 years old, when they're old enough to understand, just bring, have pictures out. Who is that? That's your brother. That's your brother. That's your sister. That's your aunt. That's your cousin. That's whoever. So eventually they'll get to meet them. But I don't think it's a good idea to be lying to children. That gave me a lot of issues, because I feel like when your parents, aunts, uncles, cousins lie to you growing up, it's like I grew up questioning, so what else have you lied to me about? What else is not true? What else haven't you told? Like, that's when I started digging into, like, starting to do some research, like ancestry.com and other things, to find out about certain backgrounds. Because I don't know about you guys, but having Caribbean parents, my Caribbean parents did not talk about personal, like private things. I think they thought it was really none of our business. And back then, they didn't talk about those type of things, like having a child on the outside, or whatever, people being incarcerated, those who had mental illness. There's a lot of secrets. They would just be like, not talk about it at all, or they would say they died a long time ago, both of which are lies. I don't think that that's good. Urban Gardening Chronicle says, same thing with my cousin. His mother never told them she put up a child for adoption when she was young. My aunt invited her to a family function, and we were like, what the? Yeah. That's, yeah, you like when they come out of nowhere. And that's one of the things. I had some siblings, when we finally found out that we had a brother, that I had some siblings that were not on board with it. They didn't want to have nothing to do with him. And I was saying to myself, what does he have to do with the decisions that my parents made to not, talk about him and inform us of him? So they blamed him, like they didn't want nothing to do with him. And then the other of my siblings, we felt sad for him. Like, I can't imagine growing up your whole life and knowing that you had a whole, like, you had brothers and sisters, and it was a lot of us. Because if you guys don't know, I have 8 other siblings besides my brother, that was my half brother, but he has now passed. But I'm grateful that I found out about him in the last probably 15 years of his life. So I did get to form some relationship with him before he passed. So I'm glad for that, because now I don't have that, I guess, that pain inside, that I think that my other siblings who had nothing to do with him, that they have, like that. I don't know, like that loss, that they wish that they would have embraced him when they did. But it's a lot for your mind to process, thinking of your family dynamic of being this, these are my brothers and sisters, this is my mom, this is my dad, and then later on finding out that it wasn't just this, that there was another child out there, or in the case of like my cousins finding out that that was not their aunt, that was their mother. So some things happen like that all the time. And or in another case, where people, which I don't agree with, let me just put that out there, but back in the day people did what they had to. But when people would have children before they got married, it's not like now where people don't do that anymore. But back in the day, like 50s, 60s, 70s, people did this. If they had children before they got married, the whoever was the one marrying into the family, the one that had kids, they would adopt the children. So when you grew up, you thought that those were your full brothers and sisters. Come to find out that that's not your father's kids, or that's not your mother's kids. It's to me, I just feel like life would be so much better with transparency. And but there are some, because I know everybody has some people like that in their family. I know I still do, some older folks that feel that it's not none of the younger people's business. They feel like they did what they had to do, and that you keep those secrets to death. They will never talk about it. I have some cousins back in Jamaica, and they still will never talk about why my dad, when he got married and he left his son, and then my mom and him went and had a new life. I just feel like it's so different. It's so different now, that I'm hoping that times have changed, that now that it's more embracive of they call them stepchildren. I don't like that name, stepchildren. I think it should be called your bonus child. Now it's more embracing of, like, like the Brady Bunch type of deal. I think all children, that even if the children came from the outside with indiscretions or whatever it was, the whole family should embrace them and not push them off to the side. Because honestly, that hurt my feelings a lot, knowing that my brother grew up like what is it called? Like I don't know, like a black sheep. Me and my siblings, we all grew up together in the same house. So, we had a different experience, where he grew up in Jamaica, in the country, just trying to, what we call, make fashion. He was just trying to make it and survive, when I never have understood why he wasn't able to come and stay with us. I don't know if it was maybe my mom didn't want to accept a child of my dad. I don't know those things. There are some things that we don't know. Some things we just don't know. And things were different back then, that you just made decisions that was the best for you. I guess my mom said it's not her child, that's my dad's child, and he does what he wants to do with his child. I don't know how it was, but I just think that that's super weird. It's one of the things that I will never understand. If I ever birthed a child, I could never leave my child behind. I could never leave my child behind. I'm not, throwing no shade to anybody who maybe has to do that, but I'm just saying, for me, I could never leave my child to be raised by somebody else, and then I go off and get a better life. Because they do that all the time in the Caribbean. They leave their children back home with their mom, their aunts, or whoever, or cousins, and then they come to the country, and then they'll send for them like 10, 15 years later. And I see Tamika just walked in. How are you doing, Tamika? Welcome in. Happy Friday to you. How are you doing? I'm not throwing any shade at anybody. I'm just having a discussion. You couldn't either, Tamika. I'm just speaking honestly. I couldn't see myself pregnant, bearing a child, and then saying, handing off a baby and then saying, okay, I'm leaving and going away. I'll come and send for my child in 15 or 20 years. I just don't see it. I can't do it. Hey Angie, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Friday. I couldn't see myself going and leaving my child. I know that's something that they do. Maybe it happens all the time. Maybe I'm just not aware, but it's something that happened all the time, in Jamaica, where my family is from. They would just they go to school, um, you know, they go to school or they go and get a job, and then 15 years later, that basically your child doesn't even know you. You're a stranger to them. And I seen it all the time happen in Jamaica. The mother or the father, they leave the child with the aunts, with their brother or sister or grandparents or cousins. Um, that's okay. Huberta Cat, appreciate you. Um, that's one of the things that I really don't understand. How could you leave your child behind, go to school or whatever for 10 or 15 years, and they never go back, you know? Even if, okay, you gotta, I don't know. My brain doesn't comprehend it. And a lot of times, like in certain places, like where my family is from, the kid grows up poor, the kid is neglected and doesn't have the things that they want and need in life. And like a lot of things that used to happen back in the day in the Caribbean was the whoever had to leave and go and get opportunity to come to this country, they would leave their children with their parents or aunts or cousins, and then they would come to the country, but they would send money back home to that family member for them to take care of them and raise them. And what I saw is the child really never got the items. They never got the money. They sent money for them for food and to have the things that they want. But let's just be honest that sometimes the relatives or family members would take the money, they would pocket it, and they would be taking care of themselves well, new car, new this, new that. And the child wouldn't get simple, basic things like food and clothing, basically be like a pauper. Those are some of the things that really hurt me when I found out some things from my family background. You think that your child is being taken care of because you're sending money, but it's one of those things that how do you know if you're not actually going and seeing your child? I get it. Maybe if you got to go and you need to do something because you're in a situation and you want your life to be better, but I couldn't see myself not going and seeing my child, even if it's in the summer, even if it's in the winter, even 1 month of the year. But I've known cases where they don't come for their child until 10, 15 years later. And the children don't want to go. They don't want nothing to do with their parents after that. And now the parents are finally in the situation to take the child to wherever it is they're going, maybe America or Canada or the United Kingdom, because that's usually where a lot of people, when they leave the Caribbean, they go to the UK, Canada, or the United States. And that's what happened to a family member of mine when they were finally ready to go and pick up their child from the Caribbean. The child didn't want to come with them because they said they didn't know them. And they didn't, because they left them when they were like 1 year old. And by the time they went back, when they were like 10 or 11 years old, of course they don't know their mother. Of course they don't know their father. They felt neglected and they didn't want to be with them anymore because they had formed a bond with their aunt or their uncle or cousin or whoever was raising them. And that's the life that they knew. Hey, Butter Roll Boutique, how are you doing? Welcome. Happy Friday to you. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys could hit the like, I'd really appreciate it. And that's one of the things that I that hurts my heart to know that there are so many children around the world that the parents want the best for their children, and they're trying to make a better life for them, and sometimes it winds up ruining the lives of the children because the children sometimes don't even get explained, because back in the day they never used to explain your mother or your father went away. It was basically like you're just there, no explanation. You don't even really know that you have a mother and a father. It's just like, and people back home, they make fun of them and call them bastard children when it's not even the case. You know, a lot of people didn't have their birth papers and hospital records in order from Jamaica, so it delayed the immigration process. Yes. I had an aunt, speaking of that Urban Guardian Chronicles, I had an aunt that never really knew how old she was because what year was my aunt? She thinks she was born in 1913, but we never were sure. We were never sure. So when she passed away in 2017, we believe she was 102, but we're not sure. She could have been 102 or she could have been 103, but she never had a birth certificate. So we truly don't know what year she was born, and we never truly knew what was her birthday because she didn't know. It's just, you know how like people in the community said you were born this, and she went by story. So she never knew what year she was born, and that caused a lot of problems when she finally did get to come to America. When she put down a birth date, they want to see a birth certificate, and she never had one, so she had to have somebody make one with it like a guess or estimate. So we never really knew how old my aunt really was, but I believe when she died in 2017, she was 102. So she lived a long life. My aunt had a lot of spunk. She really did. She had a lot of spunk. I was happy that she got to live a better life than some. Let me read some of this information that I got from online. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can pull this up again. Okay. Okay. Let me pull this up again. Okay. The most frequently kept secrets within a family include, but are not limited to, finances, serious health issues, and death, and impending divorce. So let's start talking about that. You know, most of the time, one of the biggest issues in marriages or in relationships is finances. So I can't imagine. I've heard of this. I don't understand how that happens, but I've heard where people are married and the house, no, none of the bills are being paid. So the house has gone in foreclosure, and they don't know anything that has happened until the sheriff comes to put them out. So they haven't paid any bills. They haven't informed the spouse that any bills aren't paid until one day the sheriff says, "You got to get out." And they're like, "Get out? What are you talking about?" They've never told them that they're not paying bills. So that's a big thing that happens a lot, having the issues with those family secrets. And another family secret is those who have, like, they live like a different life, like people who are closeted, you know. it, People aren't closeted anymore like they used to, but back in the day it was a big secret, you know, to be what is it called, homosexual. It was a big deal. And a lot of things used to have it used to bring like a lot of pain to the families because they were never able to live freely and openly, like people would get married that didn't, like, naturally weren't attracted to, but it's just something that they feel like they had to do just because That's what you did back in the day. You got married, a man and a woman got married, and that was it. But the times have changed, but it was not accepted. And even back in the day, it used to be so terrible that family members would chastise and separate from family members who live that lifestyle. And I just feel like that's so sad when people aren't accepting and loving of all family members. I feel like that's truly sad. And my heart goes out to anybody who has to live those experiences. I'm glad that times are changing and things are different, and we can have conversations now and talk about how we truly feel, who we really are. Um, I think that's one thing that I appreciate now, being grown and adult. When I was younger, people never used to have the conversations about sexuality. That never used to happen. That was one of those things, like, you never talked about it. I can even say, when I was growing up with girls, when you got to that age when it was your lady time, everything was hidden. It was a secret. You had to hide that you needed feminine products. And the boys, they never had any conversations about the changes that happened with their bodies, and everything that they were going to go through. All of those things, it's not good to have those secrets. And another secret that I can think of just off the top of my head is when people used to hide, like, the relatives in the family that were very questionable, that they were known to be pedophiles, like they were weird or strange. And I believe that we have them in every family. There's at least one person who is borderline weird or strange, or maybe they have never done anything, but you question their behavior. Um, and nobody used to ever talk about that uncle or that cousin or the aunt that was really strange and made you feel uncomfortable. And they never used to talk about, back in the day, like your personal space and having your own privacy, and never let anybody touch you in your private space, private parts. And that's something that I wish more adults would talk to their children about. Because it's not, because I know when I was younger, my Caribbean parents never talked about that because it was like it was something shameful. I think they thought talking about that was going to give you the idea to start, becoming sexually active. But we know that with knowledge, you protect your children. So I definitely have conversations with the younger ones in my family, like, if anybody says or does anything, if anybody makes you feel uncomfortable, I don't care who it is, I don't care if it's a cousin, I don't care if it's your uncle, I don't care who it is. And more people need to have those conversations so that children can feel safe in their own home. And I know, like, I was looking the other day at that case that happened a while ago, and it's happening every day, where children don't feel safe in their home because maybe their brother, their uncle, their cousin, it could be their own father, is a pedo. They're, what do you call it? I can't think of the word, because I know there's certain words that are triggers that you're not supposed to say here on this app, but that they do very questionable activity with younger people. So, but back in the day, you didn't have those conversations because we didn't know those things were wrong. We know that it made us feel wrong, right? We knew that those people made us feel uncomfortable, but it wasn't a open space to have conversations like, uncle is weird, or auntie is weird, or cousin, stay away from cousin because of this or because of that. It's like so many things used to happen back in the day that was not good. Kids were very vulnerable to being attacked, and it affected them their whole life. I believe 100% that so many people have got messed up in the head because of all the things that used to happen, the questionable activity of people who we were supposed to trust, your own relative, or, those who are in authority figures like your coaches or teachers or somebody like that. And those are those secrets that people take, and then they take it and keep it inside, and then you always wonder why did my cousin, why did my brother, why did our family friend or associate, why did they always have a drinking problem, or why were they addicted to certain substances? And it's because they were hiding the pain of some issues that happened through their childhood, through traumas. And I saw a lot of things growing up that was not good because it wasn't open like now, where, you have those conversations to say, if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, you tell me. If someone does something that you don't like, you tell me. You give children their power. You teach them about respect, and that one of the main things that they'll probably do is say, if you say something, then I'm going to hurt somebody else. It doesn't matter. um, you got to have those open lines of communication. I think that that's a major issue and problem that is a big issue with most people and their family, for children to feel safe, even amongst brothers and sisters. You have to kind of learn about, learning how to communicate. And I can say, with the family dynamic that I had, coming from a Caribbean family, it was like everybody was in their own world. My parents were in their own world. Each of my siblings were in their own world. And me being the youngest child, I was in my own world too. So after, we all grew up, we all had to learn how to become friends, because I think that a lot of times we think when we're growing up, yeah, that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my cousin. But if you never really worked on having a relationship together, like getting to know each other, finding out what each other likes and wants, you don't really know them. You grew up together, but you're basically strangers. So that's one of the things that I had to learn as I got older, learn to, start making phone calls and checking on people and find out who they really are as an adult. And then there are some people that as an adult I find out I don't want to deal with them. But some of them I find out that, oh man, they're pretty cool. I like them. And then eventually you get to the point where you actually love them. I will say that I can be honest, that you can come from a family, you can be in a family full of people, but it doesn't mean that you love them. People think it equates, I have a family and it means that I have people that love me, and it's not always the case. Because if you were in a family where people knew how to communicate and they knew how to be kind and talk to each other and share and be supportive, I do think that, like, that's a rare thing. That's a treasure. If you have that, you should really appreciate that. But I know as an adult, I sought help. I went and got a therapist and found out, like, how do you honestly communicate? How do you start from having broken relationships with siblings and cousins? Because I said, this is ridiculous. It can't be this way. Another generation of brokenness, cousins that don't talk to each other, siblings that don't talk to each other. And then each set, has children. So those children, then they grow up, and it's, if somebody doesn't put the pieces of the family together, then it will never start. So that's one of the things that I did when my parents passed away. I said, even if we start small with, getting to know each other as siblings, and then getting to know each other as cousins, and then the branches spread, like, check on each other, check on your relative, ask how they're doing and all of those things. But Yeah, I definitely will say that if you didn't grow up in an environment where your parents, your aunts and uncles and other people didn't come together and communicate, and it wasn't a safe and loving environment, even after, the older people, like the, what do you call it? The main people in the family, when they pass away, the key people, grandparents, aunts, uncles, your parents, when the older people pass on, if there hasn't been any cohesiveness, if there hasn't been any, you know, working on, love and support, then the whole family separates and everybody starts going their own way. So I definitely wanted to change the trajectory of my family, because I do think that there usually is generation after generation of family, generational brokenness, lack of communication, lack of support, lack of just kindness, because of the life that we live, that everybody is busy and has their own life. You have to honestly learn how to love. For I can say for me, I can't say for everybody, but I personally had to learn how to not make everything about me. I had to learn how to be supportive. I had to learn to listen. I had to learn how to let things not just be about me, to actually how to be considerate of my brothers, my sisters, my cousins. Because I didn't grow up in that environment of caring about other people. I grew up like it was about me. Make sure you're handling your business and take care of you and forget everybody else. And I don't think that that's good. At the end of the day, I know that I hear people say family is everything, but for me, I didn't grow up that way. I grew up where you are everything, and I know that don't sound nice, but it's my personal truth. So I had to learn to go from it being all about me, than it to be learning to grow together, and learning to trust each other, so that you don't have to have those secrets and you don't have to have separation, because it was like generations of brokenness. And it was like you value your friends more than you did your own siblings or your own cousins. And for me, I was like, this is not good. So it's like the secrets and the brokenness and the lack of communication from your parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents. It affects the next generation, and if nobody fixes it, it's like it continues on and on and on and on again. So I'm glad that, it's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Me and my siblings aren't perfect, but I'm glad at least now, me and my siblings, we talk to each other, we communicate, we say, how are you doing? And that's something that never happened when I was a little bit younger, as a younger adult, like in my early 20s. I never used to, not that I didn't care, but that wasn't my focus, like how my brothers or sister were doing or how my cousins were doing. And I feel like now it's so much better to, like, we're all getting to know each other, even in our older years. I definitely feel like the things that past generations, the older ones, yes, sometimes they didn't know better, but I do think that a lot of times that those in the past generations were very stubborn. They were very stubborn. They were very selfish. They did not want any change. They wanted things to stay the same. They thought that it was only about their immediate family, but it's more than just, a mother and a father and the children. What about your cousins and your aunts and grandparents and whoever else is in that circle? Um, you know, I think that's something that you do have to learn more. It's going to be different based on what is your family dynamic and your family situation. But I know that I grew up in brokenness, and I had to learn to, first off, stop calling it broken, and then start working on how do you start. So for me, how I had to start, I had to first start off learning how to be my brother's and my sister's friend, because you can't get to that sister and brother or cousin bond until you actually know who they are. So I had to get to know my brothers, my sisters, and my cousins as friends first. Like, what do you like to do? What do you do for work? What is fun? What's your personality? Do you like to go out or you like to stay home? So I think that that's an interesting part of being an adult, is not repeating the cycles of brokenness. And let me tell y'all, it was not easy. It was really hard to make that first phone call. It was very uncomfortable on the phone to say, hi, I know you don't know me, but we're cousins, and I'm your I'm your uncle. I'm your father's niece. We're first cousins, but we have never met. And this was a cousin that was probably 20 years older than me at the time, and they hesitated because they thought I was calling for drama or wanted to talk about the past. But I had to reassure her that I don't want to talk about what happened between my parents and their parents. I said it has to start with us. Whatever they did is what they did. It's about starting this generation off new. So I said, I just want to get to know you, what you're about, what you do, and know your children and their children, so that this rift can start closing up. So that's what we did. And it took some time. It took about 5 or 6 years before we all started, not being nervous around each other all the time. But it has to be somebody to start saying, let's get together. Let's talk about certain things. Let's have some fun. Let's be supportive of each other. Let's be nice and kind, instead of like how it was back in the day, talking about each other like really grimy and nasty. You guys, I think everybody here, we're all grown. We know how the conversations are. Some people with their family, never anything supportive. It's always something negative, something hurtful, or always have to talk about what a person did in the past, but they don't see the things that they are doing in their present. And that's not a good thing. It really isn't. It's not a good thing to stay in the past, right? It isn't. It's not a good thing to stay in the past. So you got to leave all of those things behind and just let people let people be who they are. Yes, I still have some cousins that never have wanted to get together because they want to stay miserable and they want to talk about what what uncle did and what auntie did. So you have to leave those people, because some people will never change. But I'm talking about the ones that actually want better. And there does have to be some sort of healing and forgiveness, and saying, we have to heal and mend, all of that sadness, all of those expectations, right? Because I think we kind of expect that, because uncle or aunt did this, that I'm drama. Like I put my hands out. I was like, hey, I come in peace. I'm not here to make any drama. I'm just here to get to know you. And I think that that's the beginning of breaking that cycle of pain, lack of communication, bringing in support, learning how to be respectful of one another. Yeah, but somebody has to do it. And a lot of times it doesn't happen in, Caribbean communities, urban communities, because nobody wants to budge. Everybody wants to blame the other person, but it got to be somebody to start it. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to do that. Being the last child, I feel happy that, I have my oldest sibling could be my mother, because that's how far apart we are in age. But I'm glad that right now we're having conversations and talking about uncomfortable things, We're stopped doing the things like making assumptions or putting ideas in our head about each other that other people would say, and we find out that certain things that people said was never the truth. It's a lot of things that happen in families that a lot of it was made up. A lot of it was like speculation and projections and all of those things. So somebody has to throw those things to the past and say, we're going to start off with today, because somebody has to stop it. I was sick of the aggravation. I was sick of the pain. I was sick of the not getting the support. And I get it that there are some people amongst our relatives that will never, ever, ever be supportive. And that's okay. You leave those behind. But then you focus on the ones that do want change, and the ones that are going to be mature, and the ones that want to seek friendship and eventually closeness and family bonds, because that does take time. So yes, all those things. So I know that every single person, and I know that many of you gems have family secrets. And it's not easy. Things that come out, it disturbs us. It disturbs us. It hurts our feelings. And yeah, it does a lot of things. And it depends on what the secret is based on how you deal with it and cope with it. But you can't let a secret, something from the past, hold you hostage your whole life. At a certain period of time, you have to say, there's nothing that I can do about it. There's two choices you can make. You can choose to, just bury it and just say, forget that, or I'm going to move forward. Or you just say, I'm going to forgive it, and then we're going to move forward. So you can choose to stay in that negative, or you can choose to leave that behind and move forward. So that's what I chose to do. And I think that we all have people, in our family that makes it difficult. There are certain people who have issues. And I can never leave this topic without talking about, the family secrets. There are some people that are not mentally stable. We all know them. I think everybody has them. Some people have the diagnosed mental health issues. Some have the undiagnosed, like you know that they're schizophrenic, that they're bipolar, that they have ADHD, or what is it called? Or they're a hoarder, or they have OCD, or something. They have some of these issues that they're just not operating on 100%. So those that you just have to just do your best to deal with those. But we have to stop letting secrets ruin our lives and start opening up and be grown enough, be woman enough to be maybe you're the first person in the family like, it's time to stop hiding. It's time to bury the hatchet. Right? Hey, can't stop, won't stop. How are you doing? Welcome. Happy Friday. Somebody has to be the one to say, let's bury the hatchet and let's talk about this elephant in the room. Whatever that elephant in the room is, sometimes is something very troublesome. It could be somebody who did something very questionable. It could be some, financial issues that caused a divide. A lot of times in the family, like one person ripped off another with some money. He took off with the money, did some questionable dealings with the money, or something like that. Or it could be there was a divorce in the family, and some people believe the guy, some people believe the girl, or vice versa. So you got to heal those things that happen that we can't change. There has to be somebody grown up enough, mature enough to say, it's enough. It's enough. Let's let that go, and let's not let that stop us from having having fun as a family. And here's another common family secrets is hiding serious health issues. That's another thing that I know for sure that happened amongst my own family. Let's see, 2010, my father, he hid it until he couldn't hide it anymore that he had cancer. Um, and that, it was devastating to, I know not just me, it is devastating to my siblings, my mother, my other relatives, my, my nieces and nephews, and, all of us. We were all affected by it. And that's something that hurts a lot when you have a relative that has a very serious health problem, but they don't tell anybody how serious it is. It could be anything, they're they have diabetes, they have a liver failure, they have cancer, they have whatever it is, whatever big family I'm not family, big health problem, and they keep that to themselves. So I think that's sometimes why certain relatives don't want to talk about it, because they didn't have time to process it. It was I found out that my dad had cancer in 2010, and my dad passed in 2016. So from the time that I knew to the time he passed away, it was 6 years. And I feel like I was really lucky. I feel like I was really blessed to have 60 years with him. And some people don't. I can't imagine. I know that some people, they never even knew that they were sick until one day, like out of the blue, they get a call that, whoever passed away. And then you find out later, after they pass away, that they had a serious health issue and problem. And I understand some of the reason, being grown and an adult, you feel like it's nobody's business to know what's going on with your health, or especially if you have a strained relationship with, when you have a strained relationship with your whoever it is. So, you figure, I'm not close with them anyways. Why should I tell anybody? But I do think it's important to tell the people that that you're close to. It's important. You have children, you have whoever, you have siblings. You should tell them. You should tell them. I know that that's a family secret that can really ruin lives, because some people, it takes a long time to process it. That even though I knew, 60 years before he passed away, that he had cancer, it's like you really don't get it until they're actually gone. You know what I mean? Hey, Leticia, how are you doing? Got a member in the house. How are you doing? Welcome in. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your support. How are you doing? Happy Friday. Yeah, that's one of the things that it took me a long time to process it, even though I knew that my dad had cancer. Like certain of my siblings never handled it well. And I think I was able to handle it a little better working in the medical field, because I saw it on a regular basis. I could handle it a little better, but some of my siblings not working in the medical field, they didn't process my dad being sick. Well, I'm doing very good. Thank you, Leticia. How are you doing? Well, thank you so much for supporting. I appreciate it. That's one of the things that I don't know. I always ask myself, if something was wrong with me, would I tell? Would I tell? And who would I tell? And here's another thing that I think is important to, while we're talking about this, please, people, all of you gems, have your papers in line for the future, especially those who have children. please get your, a life insurance, so that your children won't have to be displaced. That if something happens to you, that at least your home will be paid off. At least they'll have, the continuation of knowing that they don't have to move away. They don't have to go to someone else's home, or that, their college would be paid, or whatever it is that you want to give them. Because I see it all the time in the healthcare field. Uh, there was no planning, absolutely no planning. The mother or the father passed away, and one parent, or God forbid if both of them passed away, and the poor child is displaced. Child has no money, and they grow up hopping from home to home. No papers were in place that if something happens to your mother or father, where are you going to live? It's just tragic. And I do know that life happens where some things that you could never know will happen. You could just go outside and the next thing you're gone. But not to sound morbid or anything, but that's what it is. And a lot of times, like, people who look like me, we really don't like to have those conversations about end of life care. um, who's going to take care of the home? What about the bills and things like that? So I'm just giving a little bit of encouragement, because I see that all the time, dealing with people in healthcare, the end of life, and nothing has been planned. So even if you can only do just a little bit, like planning for having a life insurance and having certain papers in a file, so that your family can have all of those things in one place. Like, where do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be put on a ventilator? Like, it's very important to have those things written down. It's very important to have a will. It's very important to have a life insurance. So even if you can only do three things, please do those three things for your family. I have seen how that it's very comforting to know that at the end of life, that you're already sad that a person that you love has passed away, that you don't really want to think about, okay, cremate or bury. And then you have two sides of the family and they're split, and one side says, no, cremate them, no, bury them, cremate. And then it becomes a rift and more arguments. So when you have things set in place, that it's not a secret, you've put it down, you say, this is what I want. And that's one of the things that I'm grateful that I have those things in place. So I know if something happens to me, they know where my papers are. They know what I want, and there ain't going to be nobody saying, put her on a machine or do this or do that. And I know we don't like talking about that. We don't like talking about it. It's uncomfortable. It's weird, but it's important to let other people know what you want, what you don't want. Do you want to be put on machines? Do you want to be put in a nursing home? Do you want to stay at home? But if you don't make choices for yourself now while you have your sound mind, later on somebody will make those choices for you, and you may be very unhappy. So that's what I wanted to say on that part. So also, in talking about some family secrets, a lot of things that happen with divorce, right? People get divorced, and it's a lot of secrets that come out. The reason for the divorce, some things that you don't even know, that's kept as a secret. You find out that you think that the divorce happened and it was all your mother's fault, or in actuality, it was your father's fault, or aunt or a cousin. Because we always hear all these gossip. People make assumptions about why people divorce, but until you hear it from, the actual horse's mouth, then you won't know. But it's a lot of things that I seen very sadly when people divorce. It's like children are treated like they're I don't know. I can't even say what they're treated like. Like it's almost animalistic. Like the children are like property, like pieces of clothing. And it's sad already that two people, like the relationship didn't work out. And then I just, it's nobody wins in it. I just want to say that if two people choose to divorce, don't argue in front of children, because that's one thing that I've seen a lot. That when you don't get along with someone, don't involve the children in it. Don't let the don't be yelling in front of the children, or making the kids feel like it's their fault, because ultimately a lot of times the children, they blame themselves for what happened. They blame themselves. I'm the reason why they divorced, and if I wasn't here, then they would still be together. So you do have to have those conversations that mom and dad divorced because of us, and it has nothing to do with you. Mom and dad will always love you, but we just are going our separate ways. But you're going to always get to spend time with your mom, and you're always going to spend time with your dad. And a lot of times those conversations don't happen. Like it's just, it gets bitter and nasty, and kids have to go to court and talk to a judge, and it's scary. So my heart is with those children that they're separated from both, from the unit of a mom and dad that they wanted and they've known all along. But you know sometimes it's not really a choice, especially things that I've seen, like DV situations. Or one parent is just very toxic, like they have a substance issue, or they have a gambling habit, where it doesn't matter how much money comes in, they blow it all out. So that's a one of those big family secrets that that's not good. That the house goes in foreclosure, and it's not like they didn't have the money, but as much money comes in, they blow it out. And yeah, and they lose everything. So it's one of those things that when people have traumas from their past, it's like that trauma doesn't go away. But it's honestly, I know that if I didn't go and get some help, I know that if I didn't go and get some help, I would have definitely had some vices. I would have had problems with the bottle, or I would have had a problem with substances, because you are going to cover up your pain until you get to the root and the source of why you're having the pain. Why am I hurting? Why am I sad? Why does it hurt? Why can't I deal with certain situations? Why can't I talk about things? Why am I drawn to toxic relationships with people, toxic romantic relationships, toxic friendships? And it may all be because of what you've seen. And until you fix it, until you handle it, until you face it and say, because this person did this to me when I was 5, 6 years old, then you can't cope with your life. So the family secrets, it really does hurt you a lot. But we have to find a way to move past all of those things, because family secrets really can hurt. um, and it really does cause a lot of pain and hurt. And I really feel sorry for all of those that have big family secrets that they really don't know about. So this is something that I wanted to read. Okay, how do I tell my family a secret? So an issue that you're having, something that you're scared to talk about. Consider having first a one-on-one conversation with a family member that you trust the most. in order to gauge their reaction and possibly gain an ally in sharing the secret with the rest of the family, because we all know that we have some in the family that are kind of dramatic, that will go crazy. But it's really important to not just say it's hard to talk about, so I'm just going to ignore it and push it to the side and keep it as a secret, because later on that's going to cause a lot of pain when people find out certain things. So it's best maybe first to start off by having a conversation with one person in the family that you can trust, and then having maybe a get together where you call for a family meeting. Okay. And this is something that I want to say. Is it okay to keep secrets from the family? And the answer is, in some occasions, yes, because it depends on the age, it depends on the maturity. Yes, there are certain people in your family, in your relatives, I should say, that can't be trusted. It can't be trusted with all information. So you can't tell everybody your business, but it's important to, there's certain things that you don't hide, like DV situations, things like that, things that are going to impact other people. You don't keep that as a secret, because keeping secrets, it can cause a great amount of stress, high blood pressure, cause sleep problems, increase your pain, and it impact your mental health. And this can do this to the whole family. I know for myself, I think a lot of times when people are adults, they don't think that secrets will impact children. Because I know when I was growing up, they always used to say, like, kids don't know anything, right? Kids don't know anything. Like, oh, they're just a child. They don't know anything. I grew up in the generation where kids were seen and not heard. Like, oh, they're a kid. Like, what do they know? They don't know nothing. Or they would say things in front of your face, like disrespectful, or like, or they would talk grown people business in front of kids, but then you would get in trouble if you dip your mouth in the conversation. So it's just some things that I think when I was growing up, that the things that adults did was not always the best. But I definitely wanted to come in and talk about this, talk about some family secrets and why it's not good. But there are, let me end by saying this. A good example of a good secret to keep is a surprise trip, a party, or a present, or someone telling you to keep a secret that would make another person upset. But anyone saying something that it is harmful or toxic and they want you to keep that, like something that is going to cause pain, that those are not good secrets to keep, because later on that can cause that person a lot, other people in the family, a lot of distress and aggravation. So yeah, all of those things. So that's all I came in to talk about, everybody. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and talking about this topic of, family secrets and how it can ruin lives. It can cause a lot of pain. So I don't know everybody's situation, because everybody's family dynamic is different. And it depends on if you have mature relatives or are they immature. But it's really important to, number one, don't continue to ignore the elephant in the room, because eventually everybody sees the elephant. So, be mature enough to have those conversations, even if those conversations are uncomfortable. It's very important to bring about healing in your family. And that's a very difficult thing, because everyone processes pain in different ways, but it's important to be mature, have grown people conversation, to forgive other people, and so that you can move on with your life as well. Because I do think that it's important, you know, having good and healthy relationships with your relatives right now, your immediate family, it impacts the next generation and the generation after that. So if you keep having generational brokenness, not having conversations, don't support each other, that's going to keep happening generation after generation after generation. So somebody's got to be mature enough to have the conversation. So I appreciate you guys for hanging out and supporting me for a little bit. Yeah, it's not good to keep secret. It's really not. Yeah. Thank you, realist, but I'm about to hop on out of here. Thank you so much for coming back, though. I appreciate you. And to everybody else who came in today, thank you so much for supporting Life with Marlene. And if you have not liked on the way in, could you please like on your way out? Yeah, have those conversations, everybody, with those that you really care about before it's too late, because unfortunately, you never know when is the last time you're going to see somebody that you care about. You never know when is the last time that you're going to be with somebody that you love. You never know when is going to be your last time seeing people. So make sure you heal the relationships that matter to you. You have the conversations that you need to have, and forgive the people that you need to forgive, because you may never get another opportunity. So let's not keep those family secrets. Let's grow up, let's be mature, and move on with our lives. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. And I'll see you guys on the next Life with Marlene live stream, vlog, or live stream, vlog, or video. Take care, everybody.